What is the most inappropriate question you've been asked at a job interview? Story 1. I interviewed for a semiconductor company in Silicon Valley in a 3-tier interview process. The interview was about an hour long, and each manager took turns asking me questions about my experience and skills. After the second manager was done, he informed me that the last interviewing manager was running late because he had a flat tire, and to please be patient. I waited about 25 minutes before he finally showed up and walked into the room, closing the door behind him. It was an older guy with dirt and sweat on his face and visibly frustrated from having to change his tire out. He sat down and stared across the table from me and said, "They probably asked you every technical question I would have asked you anyway." He paused and said, "Do you want the freaking job or what?" I was really taken back by the raw emotion this man was expressing to me. I replied with the same brute force, "Frick yeah," I told him. Just kidding. Actually, I said, yes, I really do, in a timid voice. He said, "Screw it, the job is yours. Let me go get the paperwork started." I ended up working there for 5 years. He was quite the manager to work for, as you guys can imagine. Story 2. I went to some blank interview once. The company had a blind ad, and the interview took place in a conference room at a local hotel. When I got there, I discovered it was me and a room full of middle-aged men. I was a girl in my late 20s, all of us with a background in sales. Finally, we got some weird dog and pony show about the company, who still didn't give us a name, and how they sold a wide variety of products and services across multiple industries. They wanted us to come up front one at a time, give our name, our age, where we went to college, tell whether we were married, how many kids we had, and what our long-term goals were. I was the only one who asked why my age, marital status, or number of children was required, mainly because I had a background in HR and knew they couldn't legally ask that stuff. After that portion was over, they told us they'd be calling within the next 2 hours to invite some of us back for round 2. And in round 2, we had to bring our spouses with us, so they could talk to them too. They called me back, and I didn't even bother answering the phone. I still have no idea who the heck they were. Story 3. Completely serious, not an exaggeration, interviewer was asking some personal but not invasive questions in a kind of pre-interview we haven't really gotten to the job questions kind of way. So, do you live at home? Are you in school? And whatnot. Then it takes a sharp turn. You have a girlfriend? Yes. How'd you meet? I met her through a friend who I go out to this bar with for trivia. She showed up one night and we started talking and we really hit it off. Not a really exciting story, I'm afraid. You hit it off, huh? Did you... He makes a weird motion with his hands. Did you two, air quotes, hit it off when you first met? I'm sorry, I don't really understand. Did you two go home together when you first met? I think you're asking me if I got physical with my significant other on our first encounter. That doesn't feel really appropriate, scoffs and says under his breath, some people are so freaking uptight. Okay, so work questions. I completed the interview and got the job, but turned it down. I told this story to my brother, and he said it wasn't strange. This is a completely bizarre experience, right? Like, I understand the concept of two dudes shooting the breeze and talking about their intimate life, but to a stranger you're interviewing to work for you? Story 4. I was asked by one gentleman if I liked to party. I was then informed by the interviewer that he liked to regularly snort coke. He then followed that up with, "If you're hired, you should come hang out with us. A bunch of the guys in management like to hit up some random strip club in town during lunch and get plastered. Hey, life tip, marry a stripper. They stay hot as frick for a long time. Most are bisexual, and some will bring home their coworkers for you to sleep with. The only crappy part is the warts. Just get 'em burned off." I was expecting Ashton Kutcher to bust through the door at any moment and say I was punked. Never happened. I was hired. He wasn't trolling. He was dead serious about everything he told me. Story 5. Not a question, but what I answered. I was doing this interview for a company I already wasn't sure I wanted to work for, and the interviewer was just rubbing me the wrong way. The questions were ridiculous for what was a simple warehouse job, but finally he had a question I could play with. If you could be a bird, what kind of bird would you be and why? Now, I knew the answer he was looking for was something stupid like penguins because they work together to survive the toughest conditions. So, of course, I replied with, I'd want to be a falcon. You know, flying around above the other birds, striking them when they least expect it. There's a poor little pigeon below me looking around for some food to feed her chicks when I dive down from above and snap her spine in an explosion of feathers, then take her carcass home to feed on. Sometimes I'd go out hunting and kill the other birds just for fun, the way cats do. I was standing up and making rapid aggressive motions with my hands, simulating the way falcons hunt. I did not get the job. Story 6. I once had an interview for a frozen yogurt place in 2011, conveniently scheduled about 2 days after I got my wisdom teeth pulled. I was in a lot of pain, so I ended up showing up to the interview high on painkillers. All I really remember is him asking me the question, "If I shrunk you down to 2 inches tall and put you inside a blender, how would you escape?" And I believe my answer was something along the lines of, "Oh, what the frick kind of question was that?" And the weirdest part is, I ended up getting a second interview. Story 7. You didn't list your religion on your resume. That's personal. Perhaps we'll become acquaintances in time and we can discuss it. If you don't want to talk about it, you must be in a cult or something. No, it's not like that. I just don't see religion as this big banner to wave. It doesn't define me or my work ethic. You're not going to answer me, or are you, boy? Yeah, I'm done here. Thanks for your time. Story 8. I had a candidate I was interviewing ask me whether I smoked weed. He was telling the interview panel that he did, and that this showed he would fit in well with the office social scene. This was a job at a government department in London, and it was really not that kind of place. Story 9. I was told once that I looked about birthing age, and was asked when I was going to start having children. I just got up, said thank you for your time, and walked out. Story 10. I sat in an interview with my boss, who is always inappropriate. We were interviewing someone from India, and this genius asked if he knew this other person who happens to be Indian also. Yeah, dude, over 1 billion people from India, and they all know each other. Edit. A lot of people asked if they knew each other, and the answer was no. Story 11. The staff had to wear company polos every shift, and in the interview, I was asked what size shirt I'd wear. I was told by the interviewer that they wanted to make sure the new employee would fit into the previous employee's polo shirts, so they wouldn't have to buy 3 new polos. Story 12. I was once asked if I would be willing to change my name because the owner of the company had the same name, and we absolutely have to know who it is when she calls. I suggested a nickname, and was told I couldn't use that either. The department head had that name. Noped my way out of there. Story 13. They asked me to name my favorite Muppet, and I was totally not prepared for it. Oh, hey, Bert. Story 14. I was asked if I ever watched pornography, which didn't seem like such a big deal to me at first. Trying to be honest, I answered yes. I was then asked, what kind of stuff? I need specifics. For context, I'm a male, and the interviewer was female, and this was for a government job. Story 15. Interview for a web dev job. How do you make cheese? I mean, I gave it a good answer because I know how cheese is made, but still. Story 16. Well, I guess it was more my answer that was inappropriate, but I was asked, what is your best skill or talent? And I answered, my cleavage, and made the holding boob-loob-loobies gesture. I got the job as a cocktail bartender. The guys interviewing me were typical assistant managers under 25 and giggled like witches. Putty in my hands, ha. Story 17. I was being interviewed for a job at a small law firm. I was being interviewed by the office manager, and the associate attorney was sitting in. After all the skill questions, their office manager goes, so, are you married? Do you have kids? We are very family-oriented. The attorney jumped in. You can't ask those types of questions. After a few more questions, she said, so, are you a Christian? Attorney jumped in again. Jesus freaking Christ. You can't ask that either. I did get the job. It was a fun place to work at. Story 18. Why I didn't grow my own vegetables. Seriously. To add context, it was a web administrator's job. She also asked me thrice what my blood group was. I don't even know. I didn't get the job, thankfully. Story 19. Name something innovative you've done at work. Which, I work at a retail pharmacy, and I'm applying for an assistant management job with the same company. You know darn well that we don't get the opportunity to be innovative. Story 20. Her. Are you married? Me. Yes, have been for X years. Her. Do you like it? Me. Yeah, it's all right, I guess. Her. Quiet stare. Story 21. Not so much a question, but a warning. I was told that the size of my breasts might be an issue, since children would want to grab them. Teacher. Edit. Wow, my inbox. I teach all ages to children and adolescents in Japan. They not only grab my breasts, but they also grab and spank my butt. Older students tend to just comment on them. I wear t-shirts, but that doesn't hide the size. Story 22. Interviewer said I looked very youthful, then asked how I expected to keep a class in line if I looked almost as young as the students. He word for word asked, what if they rebel? This was for a biochemistry teaching position at a college. Story 23. What is your current salary? But seriously, I hate this question. My current salary shouldn't be relevant to the discussion of what I'm potentially worth to you as my prospective employer. It just reeks of trying to find the cheapest hire possible, and that's a red flag. Story 24. Another one from the big boss while he was interviewing this lady who happened to be a little overweight, not much, but a little. He said, we offer free gym membership. It seems like you can use it. I was like, what the frick? Story 25. The guy asked in a somewhat mumbly, muffled voice, you aren't gay or Muslim or anything, are you? To which I replied, I'm not sure. How would you define anything? This ended it for us both. Afterwards, I discovered through an employee that pre-work prayer was mandatory. That business has since dissolved. Story 26. Barbecue place in my town used to ask what religion you are on the application. They're a very Christian organization. I applied for them when I was 19. For the religion question, I just answered, that is not an appropriate question to ask a job applicant. Never got a call back, but I remember having a few other friends who mentioned that they too applied and noticed the religion question. However, I have since heard that they removed the part of the application. Story 27. Would you like to increase your chances at this job by having dinner with me? Story 28. Not me, but a friend was asked whether she was a dot Indian or feather Indian. I am not kidding.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.